Nearly everyone who works at ESPN and most of the mainstream sports media is competing to see who can out-woke each other, who can virtue signal the hardest. And today on ESPN, we had a big fight between Stephen A. Smith and Malika Andrews. And ironically, it was about who the bigger victim was in the Ime Udoka scandal. Now, we came to you with the news as soon as things started breaking almost around midnight a few days ago, when it sounded like Ime Udoka was going to be suspended for a significant amount of time. Well, things have continued to evolve, and now he's been suspended for an entire season. And it definitely seems like there's more at play here, like something else is going on, that it's far worse than people are being led to believe. All we know at this point is that Ime Udoka was reportedly in a consensual relationship with another member of the Boston Celtics staff, and they're trying to keep everything as close to the chest as they can, other than releasing that information. Well, Stephen A. Smith wasn't happy about it because, of course, Ime Udoka is black. So he's going to pretend like he's a victim of racism no matter what actually happened. Malika Andrews is coming at it from the perspective of a woman. So when Stephen A. Smith may have said something about the women involved in this, Malika Andrews didn't like it very much. And it has led to something that I think most people find incredibly hilarious. So let's listen to the first onslaught here by Stephen A., who, yesterday on First Take said, a lot of white folks, they don't get their stuff put out there. This is happening to Ime because he's a black man. Well, this was the narrative today.
And I'm going to say this again. It said in the numerous news reports, it was a consensual relationship that violated organizational policy. So only he is in violation of the company policy. The woman who elected to have a consensual relationship with him is not in violation. He gets to get mentioned and put on Front Street. We don't know who she is. What about the other women within the Celtics organization who have been victimized because wrong assumptions have been made by their involvement? If you knew exactly who it was, that would alleviate the concerns of all the other women who have had their names paraded out into the streets.
And again, Stephen A. Smith has been trying to defend Ime Udoka since the beginning, since the start of this. That's what he's been trying to do. Like I said, it does seem harsh, and I honestly think the Celtics are hiding things. I think the Celtics are even right now protecting Ime Udoka because the reality is what actually happened is probably really fucking bad. Well, that led to this response from Malika Andrews, who was on the phone.
Well, Molly, thank you. If I could first start with this. Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not.
I'm going to stop it right here. The way Malika Andrews talked to Stephen A. Smith, Malika Andrews is like kind of the golden girl right now at ESPN because she's woke as fuck. She's getting all these different jobs. She's the one that got hired on to replace Rachel Nichols, and she got pushed out of ESPN because of what she said behind the scenes, right? That's who Malika Andrews is. That's why she feels probably empowered to speak to Stephen A. like this.
Not have all of the information here, and it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that I just want to get that out of the way first.
And this is coming off Brad Stevens, who used to be the coach, is now the president of basketball operations. This is coming off a press conference where they kind of laid things out and didn't give too many specifics to the frustration of a lot of people who thought that they might.
To answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me, I think what stood out to me is that Brad Stevens, he was upset. That's what stood out to me about what he termed rampant Twitter BS is the word that he used, that women were unfairly dragged into this within the Celtics organization. You could see that Brad Stevens was visibly upset about this. And I also found that to be gross and unnecessary, that folks were bringing in the names and the images of women that is just not a fact. That was purely speculation.
And this is Malika Andrews, who sits there and ESPN puts her on air while she pounds the desk and says, abortion, we need our abortion rights. This is the same Malika Andrews. So it's no surprise she really feels for all the women involved in the situation.
And so to me, that is what stood out. But The fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
There you go. So there's Malika Andrews really getting into it at the end at Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith responded in kind. Listen to his response to Malika, where he gets pretty upset at the way Malika Andrews is speaking to him. This is all about victimhood. This is all about who is the victim here. Is Ime Udoka a victim because he's black? That's what Stephen A. thinks. Malika Andrews is looking at the women. She sees them as the victims, and Stephen A. is the one further victimizing them.
Let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves.
That moment right there. Do not be surprised if at some point in time, even the great Stephen A. Smith may have to come forward with some sort of apology to Malika Andrews, because guess what? She's higher up on the oppression ladder than he is. That's how everything works at these woke companies. That's what these people have fucking done by turning everything woke. This is the world that they have created, and now they have to live in it. And Stephen A. Smith is trying to rewrite history here. The entire time he's been on Ime Udoka's side, he's been thinking he's getting steamrolled, all this kind of stuff. Now he's starting to, well, I never said it was anybody's fault but his own. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? We'll let him speak a little bit longer.
Deserves to be fired, or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately. If you're not going to handle it privately, if you're going to publicize it in that fashion, then obviously it provokes everybody wanting to know, okay, well, who are the parties involved? When you have Amina Smith in Boston and other women pointing out the fact that there were women who were wrongly implicated in all of this, it's a disservice to them.
Now, the rest of this is basically just Stephen A. Smith saying, I never really was going after these women. I was never really pointing fingers, trying to defend himself from what Malika Andrews was really pushing out there. Now, when it does come to Stephen A. Smith, what he was really saying before this was they should either fire him or they should keep him. And if they keep him, they suspend him, they shouldn't tell anybody anything. How do you think it would look? What do you think Stephen A. Smith would be saying if a black head coach got suspended and they didn't give anybody a reason? He'd be claiming racism. So they do come out, they do have to give the reason, but they can't go into super specifics. And now Stephen A. Smith is complaining about, you guessed it, racism, because that's how it works. It is so funny to see the woke on woke crime that continues to happen at woke ESPN. They eat each other alive. You can never be woke enough. You can never be too much of a victim. These are people who have used the platform of ESPN to push identity politics, both Stephen A. and Malika Andrews. And now they're sitting there fighting over who's really the victim in the Ime Udoka scandal. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.